Every Bit Counts Challenge 2023 edition, day 4, fajitas. Okay, first, before we get started and you sit here and you watch for however long this video is, waiting, and you end up being disappointed because I didn't do the thing I said I was going to do, we are not doing the whole enchilada. We are not doing the whole fajita. Okay, I know I said fajitas. We're going to make it easy to pull your veggie pack out of the freezer when you want to do fajitas, and you'll use fresh meat ideally. Maybe sometime this fall meat goes on sale, or when Taylor and I come home with our whitetail later this year, and we have some backstrap that we want to throw on the grill, and we go, hey, you know what, fajitas would be a great idea. I wish I would have saved some onions and peppers and things to go with them. We're going to reach into the freezer. We're going to grab a pre-portioned pack for our family. Your needs may vary, and be able to toss it in and get those going. So stick with me, and I'm going to show you actually a few different ways to do this depending on how much time you want to invest, how much space you have. We're going to go with the fast, easy beginner version. We're going to cover the middle ground, experienced but don't have all day to do this, and then we're going to go pro level, knock it out of the park, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, for us, we're going to keep this pretty simple. We like onions, we like bell peppers. The girls don't like much spicy at all, so we're not throwing in jalapenos or habaneros or anything like that. If you want to change up and put some different peppers in, do whatever you typically do, whatever you typically eat. They will all freeze just fine. But for us, we're going to keep it kind of simple. I thought about mixing in the seasoning packets when I bag these up, and just decided not to do that. You could do that. There's just as good a chance that we will forget. We'll dump them in the skillet later, and we'll add more seasoning anyway. So I'm not going to do that. If you do, label your package really good. But what we're going to do is, I've got some onions, some yellow onions. Onions will freeze just fine. The sweeter the onion, the faster it will start to go bad because of the extra sugars that are in it. So if you have a white sweet onion that you want to use, that's fine. I would take them back out of the freezer and try to use them a little faster. We're going with yellow onions and some bell peppers of all different colors because that's what we had. If you're picking them out of your garden, then use whatever you've got. If you're supporting the local farmers market, get as many colors and sizes as you want. And if you're grabbing them on sale at the store, then of course get whatever they have. We've got a variety today. And for us, when we do fajitas, we tend to do beans and sometimes rice and chips and salsa, and by the time you add cheese and sour cream and some of the fixins, a little bit kind of goes a long way. And especially with the girls not just gobbling through 3 whole bell peppers a piece, they don't like them that much. The amounts that I'm doing today work for us for a meal. If you tend to eat or use more, then just add more to the bag is all you've got to do. The way I've got these kind of divided up here so that I have different colors in each pack. We've got a pretty good sized yellow onion, and I'm going to cut it in half, and each half is going to be one of our meals. Okay, we're going to have each of these piles that I'm making is going to do 2 sets. I started some earlier, so by the time we're all done, we're going to have 12 sets to put in the freezer. But I'm going to take half of red bell pepper and half of, well, I'm not going to say the colors every single time because I've got different colors in different stacks. But by taking half of 3 of them, I'm going to end up with 1.5. I could almost go up to 2, but to match the number of onions that I had, we're going with 1.5. 1.5 bell peppers and 1/2 of an onion. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to slice these into long thin strips. That's going to be what we throw in the skillet when we're ready to cook them. We're just going to go through, slice through our onions. My favorite job, slicing onions. And if you believe that,
I got some oceanfront property in Arizona.
okay, so I'm going to throw these in my little cereal bowl here. It does not have cereal in it. And the same thing, I'm just going to cut my peppers into strips, adding them to my bowl. I cut, when I've got some of that in the middle, I go ahead and I cut the stripes down until I get there. It just makes it a little easier to get the knife underneath that. Cut that part out. This is super simple. It doesn't take a lot of time. We're going to take a little more time than we have to so that I can show you a little better way to keep these and make them last. But I mentioned earlier, we've got kind of a beginner, intermediate, and pro level way of doing this. So here is our first bowl, our first family serving to get ready for the fajitas. Now, if we want to go with the beginner level and we've cut them up and we want to freeze them, here's how you do it. You take a Ziploc bag, you pour them in it, and you put it in the freezer. That's it. That works. Make sure you use the thicker freezer type bag because it'll hold up better. It'll protect them from freezer burn a little better. They'll last longer. But if you just want a quick, simple way to put away the onions and the peppers that you have, you want it in a handy size like that. Maybe not for fajitas, maybe for any other number of things. The simplest way is to just do that. Slice them up, stick them in a Ziploc bag, get as much of the air out as you can, okay, and then throw them in the freezer. Now, that's beginner level. Okay, that'll get you started. And if that's what you have time for, if that's what you have space for, then by all means, go for it. You'll get a few months where you can pull those out and use them, and they will still taste and look just fine. Here's our second half of our first batch. And I'm just going to start putting these in my other cereal bowl over here. Alright, so I've got 2 more sets ready to go. This is the difference between the beginner and the intermediate level. We're going to add another step here. If you want to be able to preserve these a little bit longer, there's some enzymes that are going to kind of break them down, and we want to kill those enzymes. That doesn't mean they'll never break down, but that means they'll last a little longer. So I'm going to ask the girls real fast if they know what we do next.
Oh, blanch. 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 Do you up against blanch? Blanch.
That's right. Next, we're going to blanch our veggies. I've got a pot of boiling water sitting over there waiting, and I'll show you a quick and easy way that I use to be able to get through a bunch of sets of this and keep my portion sizes the same. So let's go over to the stove. All right, I'm here with my boiling water, and I have this wonderful metal colander. It has a handle by which to hold it, and it has a hook on the other side so it can set on top of a pot such as this. And this is what we're going to use to blanch. So I'm going to just take and pour my vegetables, my bell peppers and my onions. I'm going to set my bowl back down behind me here. And I've got a nice little wooden spoon that I'm going to make sure these don't float up above the water. So blanching, as I mentioned earlier, is going to kill off those enzymes. It takes about 1 minute to maybe 2 minutes, depending on the size of your vegetables. Since I've got these cut in pretty thin strips, a minute should be plenty. So we're going to put it down in the boiling water, and I'm just going to make sure that they're all the way in it. I've got a little timer on my watch ready to go, and we're going to give them 1 minute. All right, that sound means time is running out. We'll give the wheel a final spin. Vowels are worth nothing. Consonants are worth boop, 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 boop. A bowl of veggies. Okay, so again, this doesn't have to be exact. I'm not yanking them out as soon as the minute is up. If they were sliced bigger, you would leave them a little longer anyway. But you don't want to leave them in there long enough to cook. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do next is stop them from cooking. So I set on the bar behind me a bowl of cold water. Okay, it actually started out with ice in it. The ice has melted, but it is still quite cold to the touch. It doesn't need to be freezing. What it is going to do is stop the cooking process. So again, because these are in my colander, I can carry it over easily. I just dunk the whole thing in. Make sure that they're not, if I submerge the whole thing, they float, so they would start swimming away, and we don't want them to swim away. Okay, so after a quick bath in cold water, what we're doing is stopping them from just continuing to cook on their own, and now we simply want them to drip dry. Now if you're only doing a little bit of this, you can just set the colander in the sink and let them drip right there. Because I have a bunch to get through, I'm going to do something a little different. Okay, the next step for intermediate level is I'm going to use this cookie sheet and just some paper towels, and we're going to spread these out a little bit and let them start to dry. Now, not dehydrate, okay, but we don't want them dripping with water before we freeze them. And so just kind of spread these around, and we're going to use this cookie sheet again when we step up to the pro level. I'll show you what I mean. For now, I'm going to blanch this other bowl so we can get it ready as well. Okay, so here we are. I've got 2 servings of blanched vegetables laid out. One of them is on the cookie sheet, which we'll talk more about later. The other one is just on some paper towels on the countertop. Again, we're not leaving them out to completely dry. We're not dehydrating. We're not freeze drying. We're not any of that. We just don't want them dripping wet. Okay, so intermediate level is we've sliced them up, we blanched them, which is going to help them stay fresh and keep their color a little bit longer for us, so we get some extra time out of what we're putting away. And then the next step at the intermediate level would be to take our Ziploc bag, toss them in, add them to the freezer. Okay, the only difference between beginner and intermediate is that we blanched them this time to get some extra storage life out of them. Now here's where I will toss in a bonus level called intermediate plus. Now that we've blanched them, instead of using a Ziploc bag, another option would be to use a vacuum sealer. And it's just going to be a better way of getting all of the air out before they freeze, right, when you seal them up. And because we're doing these in serving sizes, we don't need to seal them back up when we're done. And so the Ziploc bag, the resealable bonus, doesn't matter. If you want to do a bigger portion and just take out what you need, a Ziploc bag might work for that. Intermediate is still going to cause a problem for doing that. I'll explain that in a little bit. You're going to want to step up to pro level if you're going to have one big bag and just take what you need. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But for now, we've got 2 options at the intermediate level. Now that we've blanched it, we can Ziploc bag or we can vacuum seal, and at that point they could be and would be ready to go. Okay, so just bagging these up and throwing them in, you're off to the races. However, now let's step up to pro level preserving our onions and our bell peppers bell peppers. Now let's step up to the pro level. And some of y'all are just laughing at me because nothing about what I do is pro, but I'm just describing different ways to put more effort and get a little better result, right? So the pro level, we do everything just like we did up to this point. We're going to take our onions, our peppers, or whatever else you want to mix in there. We're going to slice them. We're going to blanch them. We're going to lay them out like this and let them dry off. Not dry, but dry off, okay? And then what's going to come next is we're going to put these in the freezer on this cookie sheet, okay? We're going to put them in and we're going to do something called flash freezing them. We're not bagging them up. We're putting them in just like this. Well, not just like this. I would take them off of the paper towel because they're going to freeze to it. And when you try to peel off frozen vegetables from wet frozen paper towel, then you're going to end up with paper towel nuggets inside your veggies. So that's the one thing that I would do different. Okay, we're going to, ooh, there's an onion camouflaged on the paper towel trying to hitch a ride out of here. We're going to take them and we're going to spread them out. Now, what makes this pro level? Well, number one, because you have to have the extra time and the space in your freezer to do this, okay? But the advantage, the reason you might want to take the extra time and use the space in your freezer is because if we take this lump right here and we stick it in a Ziploc bag and we put it in the freezer, it's going to freeze together as a solid chunk. It's fine when you take it out. It will thaw, it will cook, but it's not going to cook as easy when it's all stuck together. You're going to have to either thaw it out or really watch it when you throw it in the skillet and make sure the bottom doesn't start burning while the top is still frozen together, right? And so what happens when we put it in and we flash freeze it is because they're spread out, they've got lots of space, they're going to freeze quicker, like this anyway, and they're going to freeze as individual pieces. Then we're going to take and we're going to scrape the little frozen pieces off. Then we can bag them up and put them back in the freezer, and they're going to keep longer, they're going to stay fresher, they're going to be easy to cook with. And I mentioned earlier, if you want a larger bag and just take what you need out, you're going to have to flash freeze them to be able to get just a cup or, you know, a spoonful at a time. Side note, here's your bonus tip. If you want to do this in a reusable kind of ongoing way, especially if you're cutting them down maybe even smaller, maybe you're not mixing them together, you just want to have some bell peppers so that you can use in different things, and you want to cut them down in small cubes, stick them in a glass jar and put them in the freezer. Flash freeze them first and then put them in a glass jar. Keep them in the freezer, they'll keep just fine. I've read the jars with the square sides are better, or a little safer to go in the freezer, but you're not filling it with liquid. Don't fill it with water and put it in the freezer. Water expands when it turns to ice. You'll crack, you'll have broken glass. That's a horrible idea. But if you're taking flash frozen vegetables, they're already frozen. There's no moisture in there to expand. You're just dropping them dry into a jar, and you have space to do it without knocking jars around and falling out and shattering on the floor at your feet. That's an option. That's something that you can do. So unscrew the lid, dump out what you need, put the jar back when you're done, right? So there's an idea that you can use. I'm not going to go that route. We are going to get out the vacuum sealer here in a little bit, but I want to show you a quick peek inside our freezer. If we did this later in the month, we probably wouldn't have room to do this because we'll have other things going in here. But since we're doing this early, I've got room to stack a couple of those cookie sheets. I just used some small glasses to raise them up so I could set one on the other, and they can be freezing at the same time. They need to be in here for probably just about an hour. If you cut bigger slices, it might take longer. Maybe plan on a couple of hours roughly, but check them. As soon as they're frozen, we can pull them out and bag them up, vacuum seal them, and then come right back and stack them for this fall and this winter. Okay, for these, just because I put them away, I froze them early and I just wanted an easy way to store them in the freezer. I stuck them in a Ziploc bag for now. That's not my final destination for these, but you could stop right there and that would be fine. Look at this though. Look how easy they're individually frozen, right? So they pour right out. They'll settle into the bottom of your pan. They'll thaw. They'll cook so much faster, and it's just better all the way around. So what I'm going to do now is take this one, because they're also gonna start thawing if I leave them laying out here. It doesn't take that nearly as long to thaw out as it does a big chunk of ice. So we're going to get the vacuum sealer out, and we're going to get these ready for long-term storage. Okay, here's how this is going to work. We're going to figure out how much bag we need, and I'm going to say roughly the width of this cutting board that I've got them piled up on. Then I'm sure the different machines are slightly different, so follow the instructions. This one says to leave an extra 4 inches of space because it's got to be able to slide into the machine so that it can suck the air out and seal it off, and so it just needs a little bit of extra room there. And so what we're going to do is lower the roll cutter bar and slide the bag cutter across the cutter bar. So I'm going to say I need about this much for the veggies, plus another 4 inches, okay? All right, seal. Then slowly insert the bag, curl down. Ooh, I'm gonna flip it over. Okay, so there it is. We sealed up the bottom. Now we just need our veggies on the inside. Okay, now I know that I got way too much bag the first time around. What fits plus 4 inches would have been about that much, but I don't know if that's enough to make 2 bags. It might be. It might be. Let's try it. I think if I go right there, maybe not. I don't know. Next time though, I'll make the bag much smaller. Okay, so now we don't push the seal button. We stick it in, and it's going to grab it all by itself. It's going to start pumping that air out of there. All right, you heard the sigh of relief, and then the motor let go. This is our first vacuum sealed, sliced, blanched, pro level fajita veggie pack. Now, these will be good for several months. Matter of fact, they should last us. We're gonna have a dozen of them. I probably would eat them faster than one a month and try to get a whole year out of them. I probably would try to get them in 8 to 9 months and enjoy these in my belly. But they're not gonna go bad that fast. They'll taste better probably within the first 6 months. So here we go. I am going to lather, rinse, repeat, and do this with a bunch more. And we will add this to our stash. There it is. Now this, I don't know if I mentioned measurements before. I mentioned that this would be enough for our family. This will go with about 1 pound of meat. So if sirloin or flank steak goes on sale and we grab a pound, we'll bring it home. We can throw this in and have fajitas in no time. If we have 2 or 3 pounds and we want to have guests over, we just grab 2 or 3 packs, right? And just keep going. So this is going to make some really quick, easy, delicious fajita meals. We will just throw on the fixins with refried beans, some rice, some grated cheese, and well, you can imagine the rest. So there you have it. Whether you are beginner, intermediate, or pro, it's very easy to put some veggies away, freeze them, have them ready for something like fajitas. Here is our pro level fajita pack ready to go. I'm going to have 11 more of these soon, and at the end of the month, at the end of the challenge, you'll see all of the stuff that we're putting back. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure and search for that hashtag Every Bit Counts Challenge and see what the other channels are doing. Leave us a comment below. How do you like your fajitas? Do you like them spicy? Do you like them bland? Do you like them weird? Share some ideas with us. Let us know what you like. And if you're not following us, we would love it if you would stick around and watch more of what we're doing. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, the whichever button that you see below the screen. Just smash that thing and come along for the ride. Thanks for joining us. That's the seal button. I should have pressed the power button first. Hopefully I don't mess this up moving it around so that I can reach the buttons. But I don't leave it up there anyway. I'm going to stick it down here. It never says to move the bag down here. Oh, nope. You know why? Cancel. It's trying to suck the air out and the whole back end is open because I didn't press the seal button yet like the instructions say. All right.